And joining us now is Fatima Gailani in Doha, and she is a member of Afghanistan's peace negotiation team. Welcome to the programme, Fatima. Great to have you with us today. Now, you've been at the forefront of political work in Afghanistan for decades as the political spokesperson for the party fighting for independence of Afghanistan back in the Soviet era. But help us understand, now that you've been on that table negotiating face-to-face with the Taliban, what is the attitude regarding women and other issues in general?
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on this television. Quite frankly, I didn't see anything different that a traditional man will show in Afghanistan. Respect, soft-spoken, and not gazing to one's eyes. But this is not just them. This is the way that most traditional people do behave towards a woman. But one has to also remember that we have a vast difference in our values. What we want for women in Afghanistan, I assure everybody that it is in the framework of Islam, what we have in our constitution. But the problem is that how do we see and read the same text from our holy book and interpret it in different ways? So this will be a problem, but I have seen it before when I was a commissioner in the Afghan constitution. We had many religious people and traditional people that they would approach us for consultation, and they had the same view. But with conversation, with lengthy understanding with each other, we came with a good understanding, and my hope is that this time we will do it again.
But has the Taliban's attitude specifically towards women's rights evolved since they were in power?
Well, on the papers, on their statements, it shows that there is a change. But we have to be absolutely sure how much is this change, and it will be adequate and enough for the women of Afghanistan. I assure you that today the women of Afghanistan are never like before. It's a huge force of educated, very committed women that they should not, and they cannot be ignored. The same way that we made a mistake in the past, that we didn't include Taliban in our negotiations in Bonn, starting in Bonn, and later they were not taken seriously. Today, the women of Afghanistan and the youth of Afghanistan are new reality of Afghanistan, and they cannot and should not be ignored.
Fatima, how worried are you about the September troop pullout that Joe Biden has announced?
Look, I mean, everyone in Afghanistan is worried, and I'm not an exception. But I'll explain that what worries me. What worries me is that we didn't do a proper progress in our peace talks. And now that a new date has been put, my hope is that we will make a good, a meaningful, and sustainable progress. If we finish it by that time, that I doubt it, will be fantastic. But if not, our progress will be meaningful enough that it could not be harmed. And that's why it is very important, the conference that you just talked about, the foreign ministers. This is very important to give us courage and give us an assurance that we will carry on our negotiations and come to an understanding. And this is really important. So it is not so much the withdrawal, it is the preparation to be ready for it is important, for not just women of Afghanistan, but for Afghan people in general.
And Istanbul, of course, is set to hold peace talks after Ramadan. How could that announcement by Joe Biden impact these talks here in Istanbul?
Well, one has to be very clear about that whatever date, the date is not fixed yet, but whatever date that in Istanbul we gather together, both sides of the negotiation table, it is important that we have made already some progress here in Doha. And then what is happening in Istanbul should be connected and part of Doha, because parallel talks, parallel negotiations will not help. It has to be put in one and enforced in one. And I'm happy to tell you that this is exactly what's happening. So my hope is that from tomorrow, we will start our negotiations here in Doha and carry it on to whenever Istanbul happens, and then have a meaningful finish to it. And it has to be a peace which is sustainable, a peace which is inclusive, a peace that men and women of Afghanistan feel comfortable in it. And this is very important. Just lack of war doesn't mean peace for the people of Afghanistan. And this is a message that we got from all over Afghanistan. We had intensive negotiations and consultations with men, women, civil society in all parts of Afghanistan. And the message was one thing. Peace means inclusivity. Peace doesn't mean just the lack of war. Peace means the happiness of the people of Afghanistan, that everyone should feel at home.
And how exactly will you get to this peace, Fatima?
Well, it is, I wish that it was only in the hand of two sides of the negotiation table. It is much more complicated than that. It's a war that Afghanistan was pushed into. It was not just an Afghan war. It was an international war. It was a regional war. And now little rivalries, little battles are going on inside Afghanistan, which includes people around us. This should not happen. Peace in Afghanistan will mean peace for the world, and especially for the region. And this is a good start that now you have there in Istanbul. I mean it. All those countries, the NATO countries and more, who are involved in the last 20 years in Afghanistan, I really urge them to put their force and put their efforts into peace. All these countries in NATO, that Turkey is one of them, should have a very, very active role in the region with our neighbors, that people will be convinced that peace in Afghanistan is peace for everybody. That includes Afghan ourselves. We should, all the politicians in Afghanistan, from the office of the president to the office of Dr. Abdullah, to every politician, we should put our differences aside. We should seize this opportunity of peace. And before the September date, we have to come to an understanding. And this goes with the unity with our neighbors, and it comes with a unity of voice in the region. And we all together, I have no doubt that we can achieve it. But if we are trying to be a troublemaker or an obstacle in front of peace, what could the people of Afghanistan do? We are blamed left and right for everything. But just have a look with our friends. Are they in one voice? Are they talking with one voice? We need one voice for our supporters, and the same way in Afghanistan, we need one voice of peace for the whole of Afghanistan.
Fatima Gailani, thank you so much for speaking to us today on TRT World from Istanbul, and we wish you and your team best of luck. Thank you.